Have to do another one on circumcision, looks like it, because I did see Gary's video, and yeah, I'm not letting him have last word on this. Which is usually not what I do. Each time Gary and I have butted heads in the past, I have given him the final say, but no more. Starting today, I'm not going to be as easygoing about all his bullshit, because it's just going to be too much. Because yeah, he does this video, tucks it away on his site, so he's got to know that the arguments are weak, or otherwise he wouldn't have been so chicken shit as to not post it on YouTube. But yeah, he didn't get that many negative comments, or just many comments in general. So I'm not sure how effective his video was in swaying anyone, but just in case it was, let's just go ahead and debunk his crap. And again, I'd love to play it and respond to it as it goes, but it's 22 minutes, so it's just not feasible. But I did jot down a few things he said, so we can still do it in a point-by-point way regardless, so let's go ahead with it. Yeah, so he starts out strawmanning me on the democracy issue, paraphrasing my, knowledge should determine the merit of vote idea to the argument that people shouldn't have the right to vote at all. And I never said anything remotely similar to that. Taking people's entire vote away. And he brought this up because I said that if parents are going to be legally allowed to make this decision for their child, then the parents should be educated about it. And if they're not educated about it, they should be informed about it by doctors or hospital staff. And he says that's bullshit. It's bad enough the kid is going to grow up and hate the fact that he had his dick chopped off, due to subjective cosmetic reasons that his folks saw fit to impose on him. But if the kid asks, well, was there any procedure set up so that at least my parents could have been informed about the benefits and the alternatives, the kid's going to get told a big fat no. There's no need, because people are entitled to their uneducated opinions on how their son's penis should look throughout his entire life. So yeah, that's just brilliant. So then, once again, he gripes about calling it a mutilation because, circumcised penis is not a dysfunctional penis. So, women aren't running around saying that they can't have sex with circumcised dicks. He says women are actually doing the opposite. And he just pulled that right out of his ass, since 80% of men are uncut. So that means, yeah, a few American women, they faint at the sight of an uncut dick, and that apparently gives the green light to go around saying that women in general are running away from uncut dicks. I mean, and he says we're the ones who are excessive in our rhetoric, the way we phrase things, and it's just such a fucking joke. It is mutilation, it is a deliberate procedure to remove the foreskin, and you speculating that the ancient tribes might just have had some practical purpose in doing it, it just doesn't cut it. We know it's religion-based, and we know religions frown on sexuality, so why speculate about some magical alternative practicality that the religious nuts may have had in mind? Why not just simply add the 2 + 2? Why? Because you don't like the number 4. That's a result of it, obviously. And when I point out the function that the 20,000 nerve endings serve, he completely discounts that by talking about how it's all about what the brain gets accustomed to. And if the kid was sniped as an infant, well, that's all the brain's going to know. That's going to be the foundation, the default of the brain-penis relationship, so it's good enough. And remember, this coming from a guy who spent the better part of last year talking about how human beings have, nothing's unacceptable to them, how they're addicts. And he's constantly bringing up hypotheticals about slaves and such, and how even if the slaves were conditioned to be perfectly happy with their slavery, if they were 100% convinced that their default role in life was to be a slave, and their brain got accustomed to every bit of that lifestyle, Gary has said that slave owners should still be called complete assholes, regardless of the slave's opinions. So which is it, Gary? Is there an ethical truth when it comes to states of being? An ethical truth that excels beyond our perception of it? Or is it all about the subjective brain experience? Because if you're going to say that the 20,000 nerve endings are superfluous as long as they're taken away before the kid can get accustomed to them, you're going to have to be consistent and admit that by the same token, it doesn't matter how many heroin-type desires human beings keep imposing on new victims by reproducing you're going to have to admit that if the majority of those victims accept it because their brains are conditioned to accept it, you have no right to say that they're doing something ethically wrong by reproducing, if it's all about the brain's subjective reaction. Because yeah, if it is all about the subjective reaction, then there's no such thing as objective ethics. That is, if you want to be consistent to your brain-penis relationship excuse. And that's all it is, it's an excuse. Just a way to, you know, say, well, 20,000 nerve endings, non-factor. So yeah. Let's see, then he says, yeah, foreskin's only used for primitive apes rather than a civilized human. And he's got it twisted, because if you live in shitty conditions which prevent us from maintaining a certain level of hygiene, then yeah, foreskin is a liability. Because yeah, plenty of shit could probably make its way in there. But that's not the case for most of us. So why should an infant be deprived of 20,000 nerve endings? Why should he be deprived of increased sexual pleasure later on? Why? Not to mention the trauma of the surgery itself, but we'll get into that. So let's see. Yeah, he keeps insisting that anyone who finds any use for it must blindly assume that nature always gets it right, which of course we don't do, as I pointed out in the last video. Then apparently we have a bunch of cheese flying out of our dicks all the time, and yeah, it just happens all the time. I mean, I even have to stop this video because there's just so much cheese buildup. I mean, it's just so stupid. Have you ever even seen uncut dick? It's just so obvious that you've swallowed up a bunch of propaganda if this is the kind of crap that flies out of your mouth so casually. Cheese flying out of our dicks. Give me a fucking break. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, tries to discredit my armpit stench analogy that I bring up. So he says that we can just wear deodorant and we can just, you know, augment the armpit stench, but we can't augment the foreskins. And how does he know this? Because he's been around foreskins, or because of 1950s pro-circumcision propaganda films that are instilled in his brain? Yeah, I think it's the 1950s propaganda films, and not the former. And then, you know, when I point out the irrationality in bringing up potential dick stenches, focusing on those more than any other body odor that crops up throughout the day, he says he's allowed to have his own standard. And yes, I agree. Obviously, he's allowed to, but he's not allowed to, you know, assume that his son would. Because we have evidence that an overwhelming majority of the 80% of men who are uncut, we know that they never worry about it. So, to those who get cut later on, for medical reasons, not odor-related reasons, they don't fall into that category. So, only about 0.1% of people fall into the odor category. And that's not a big enough statistic to go ahead and assume that your son's going to fall into that statistic. You know, might as well play the lottery if you're going to give that 0.1% any credence. So yeah, he'll agree that it's all about choices, but then he'll say that it's just stupid to do it at any time other than when the patient himself has no capacity to conceive of the choice, let alone verbalize the choice. Why? Because, yeah, if it's done later, he might have to be celibate for a few weeks or a few months. And that's apparently enough of a liability to cut everyone at birth, despite the small percentage of men who feel the need to do it later on, who aren't cut. I mean, it's just so stupid, this celibate for a couple of weeks excuse. Especially when you counter in the fact that cut guys who wish that they weren't cut outnumber uncut guys who wish that they were cut. I mean, that alone is reason enough not to cut at birth. But he speculates that, you know, guys who like to restore their foreskin, they must all have some sort of a mental issue that are the root of their desire to get it restored. Which, if that's true, there goes his whole brain argument. Because yeah, it does contradict itself with that mental excuse issue, which is unfounded to begin with. Because yeah, it can't possibly be the 20,000 nerve endings that are lacking, that are bothering these people. No, it's got to be some other mental problem. And he just keeps stressing that it's no option to be made later on because of the whole brain hardwired thing. And I mean, there've been comments here alone from guys who've said that they've had the procedure done as adults and they got accustomed to it. Their brains got accustomed to it. So he really is overblowing this whole brain connection thing. really should be able to accept that the surgeon can take place once the individual reaches an age where he can make the decision. And nobody on my side is saying that people aren't entitled to their own take on this. You're the one stressing that it's a decision that parents have to make and not the individual. So you're the one saying that people aren't entitled to agree since they're incapable of disagreeing at that age. And as for the European bathroom thing, he really did backtrack when he said it was only making a joke, when obviously he was responding to a serious comment about the US, so I think it was more of a tit for tat than he's willing to admit at this point. And besides, the jokes are supposed to carry an element of truth to them. So regardless of it being a truth or a joke or not, I can still say that by my radar, I can still say that it was a joke based on distorted views of European bathrooms. So I can still point out that it's bullshit. Fuck, I'm gonna be out of time. So anyway, not all, but I covered